Hello science fans! Today we are going to talk about airplanes. Wow! Airplanes are truly amazing flying machines, don't you think? They take us super high up, all over our wonderful planet Earth. But just like your cool bicycle or maybe your family's car, sometimes parts on an airplane need a little bit of help. They might need to be fixed or even completely replaced with new ones. So, airlines have a special system to manage all of this, you see? It's called the Airline Engineering Supply Chain. It's like a giant shopping list and super speedy delivery service, all just for keeping those fantastic airplanes soaring in the sky. Why are these spare parts so incredibly important? Well, consider this. If even a tiny little light bulb on the wing of a huge airplane burns out, that plane might not be allowed to fly by the safety people. It's a very important safety rule, and safety is always first in flying. So airlines need to have exactly the right parts ready to go, all the time. These parts, big and small, are what keep the planes flying safely. They make sure you can get to your exciting holiday destination, or go visit your family and friends who live far away. It's all about making sure every flight is as safe as can be. Imagine a truly enormous library, a gigantic building full of shelves. But instead of being filled with fascinating books about science or stories, it's completely full of all sorts of airplane parts. There are really big parts, like the huge landing gear with its giant wheels. And there are millions of tiny parts, like special little screws and bolts. This amazing library of parts is what the airline calls its stores or warehouse. Getting the correct part to the right mechanic at exactly the right moment is a super important and often very tricky job. It's a big, complex puzzle, and solving this puzzle keeps the airplanes flying high and safe. So you can see that managing all these different spare parts is a really big deal. It costs a lot of money, so airlines have to be smart about spending. It takes a lot of careful planning, thinking ahead for what might be needed, and lots of very smart people, engineers and planners, work together as a team. If this important job isn't done really well, flights can be delayed for hours, or even worse, not having the right part could make flying unsafe. So let's dive in and learn how airlines do this amazing job. It's all about keeping those magnificent flying machines in absolutely tip-top shape. Are you ready? Let's go! Airlines spend money, quite a lot of it, in two main ways, you know. Think of it like this. It's a pretty good comparison. Imagine buying a big house for your family to live in for many years. That's one kind of spending, a big one. Then think about paying the monthly rent for an apartment, or your electricity bill. That's a different kind of spending, more regular for everyday things. In the busy world of airlines, we call these Capex and Opex. Capex, or capital expenditure, is for buying the really big, important stuff. It's for things that will last a long time for the airline. So, what exactly is this Capex thing? Let's get into it. Capex, which stands for capital expenditure, happens when an airline buys something, but not just anything. It's something big, usually very expensive. And it's something the airline will own and use for many years, like buying a shiny, brand new, super powerful engine for a big jet plane, or perhaps buying a very special, complicated machine that mechanics use to test airplane parts. These are what we call big investments for the future of the airline. It's very much like buying that house we talked about. You own it, it's yours, and it's a valuable asset for the company for a long period. Now what about the other kind of spending, Opex? Let's explore. Opex, which is short for operating expenditure, is for all the everyday running costs. These are the costs that keep the airline operating day in and day out. Think about the jet fuel that the airplanes need to fly. That's a big Opex cost. Or paying the salaries of the pilots, the cabin crew, and the hardworking mechanics. For spare parts, Opex could mean leasing a part instead of buying it outright, or it could be for all those small disposable parts like air filters or tiny light bulbs. These are parts that are used up fairly quickly and need constant replacing. It's just like paying your monthly phone bill or your electricity bill at home. So, to bring it all together for spare parts, here's how it works. An airline might decide to buy a really expensive and critical part, like a complete landing gear assembly for one of its large airplanes. That would be a Capex purchase because they will own it for a long time. But then, they might also pay a different company to use a shared pool of smaller, more common parts like certain nuts, bolts, or seals, and they only pay for these parts as they actually use them. That's Opex. It's all about making really smart financial choices for the airline. This helps them to keep their overall costs down and all their airplanes flying safely. Pretty neat and clever way to manage money, huh? Sometimes, even when airplanes get the very best care and attention, and even when all the maintenance checks are done perfectly on time, airplane parts can break or stop working unexpectedly. It just happens. Imagine you have a brand new, super duper amazing toy, your favorite one, and then, all of a sudden, it just stops working right in the middle of playing. That's a big, unwelcome surprise, isn't it? It can be quite frustrating. For an airplane, a surprise problem with a part can be a really big deal. It might mean that a flight has to be delayed for many hours, and that could cause passengers to miss their important connections or meetings. Oh no, these kinds of unexpected surprise problems can make repair costs go up, up, up. If a crucial part breaks down much earlier than anyone thought it would, the airline has to scramble to fix it or replace it as fast as possible. Safety always comes first, so the plane cannot fly until it's perfect. This might mean paying a lot of extra money for super fast shipping of a new part. Or it could mean paying the skilled engineers and mechanics to work overtime, maybe even through the night to get the airplane ready to fly again. It all adds to the final bill, making the repair much more expensive. It's just like when your special toy breaks, and you quickly need to buy special tools or new expensive batteries to get it working again right away. But wait just a minute, there's something really helpful that can come to the rescue. It's a kind of magic promise, and it's called a warranty. Isn't that a great word? A warranty is like a special written promise from the company that made the part. In this promise, they say that the part will work well and without problems for a certain specific amount of time or for a certain number of flight hours. Let's say an airline buys a brand new high-tech radio for the cockpit, and this new radio comes with a 1-year warranty from the manufacturer. If that radio breaks down or stops working properly within that 1 year, the company that made it might fix it completely for free, or even give a new one. Here's a little story to show you how cool warranties can be. Imagine an airline decided to buy a new, super fancy coffee maker for the first-class cabin. This coffee maker was top of the line, very expensive. The warranty document that came with it said it would work perfectly for 500 flights. But oh dear, after only 100 flights it started making really yucky, terrible coffee. The passengers were not happy at all. But because of that trusty warranty, the coffee maker company quickly sent a brand new one to the airline, and there was no extra charge at all for the replacement machine. That warranty saved the airline money, and it kept the passengers happy with delicious coffee. Hooray for warranties! They are like a safety net for expensive parts. Airplane engines are truly amazing pieces of engineering. They are incredible. They are super, super powerful, able to lift huge airplanes into the sky. And they are also super complex, with thousands of precisely made parts inside. Think of them as the strong, beating heart of the airplane, always working hard. They are pumping out all the enormous power needed for the plane to fly fast and high. But just like our own hearts need good care and checkups to stay healthy, airplane engines need a lot of constant attention and careful maintenance. And you probably guessed it, they can be very, very expensive to look after. Wow, these powerful things are truly marvels of modern science and engineering. The cost of an airplane engine isn't just the price you pay when you first buy it. Oh no, it's much more than that over the engine's whole life. Over time, as an engine works incredibly hard, flying thousands and thousands of miles, its many internal parts start to wear out, just like parts in a car engine. It needs very regular checkups, almost like going to the doctor for the engine. And sometimes it needs really big, expensive repair jobs. These are called major overhauls, where the engine is taken apart and rebuilt. These overhauls can cost millions and millions of dollars for just one engine. That's a huge amount of money, even for a very big and successful airline. So, how do airlines manage these absolutely giant engine costs? It's a big challenge. They can't just ignore them, they have to plan very carefully. Luckily, they have some really clever plans and strategies to help them. One very popular and smart way is called a power-by-the-hour contract. You might see it written as PBH. It's a special agreement with an engine company. With a PBH contract, the airline pays a set, predictable amount of money to an engine manufacturing or maintenance company for every single hour that the engine flies. It's kind of like paying a monthly subscription fee for your engine's complete healthcare. This power-by-the-hour or PBH contract is super helpful for the airlines. It makes budgeting for engine maintenance much easier and more predictable. The engine company, the one that gets the hourly payments, then takes care of most of the scheduled maintenance, the repairs, and even those big overhauls. So the airline doesn't suddenly get a surprise giant bill for millions of dollars if an engine unexpectedly needs a big expensive fix. It smooths out the costs. It helps them plan their spending much better over many years. It's like having an amazing all-inclusive service and warranty plan for your car engine, but on a much bigger and more complex scale. Smart thinking, right? It helps keep those powerful hearts of the airplanes beating strongly. So, how does an airline really know if its engineering team is doing a super job? And, how do they know if their important parts supply system is working well? Well, they don't just cross their fingers and hope for the best. That wouldn't be very scientific. Instead, they use special measurements, kind of like how a doctor uses a thermometer or a stethoscope. These measurements are called key performance indicators, or, KPIs for short. Think of these KPIs as a sort of regular report card for the airline's maintenance department. They clearly show what's going really well, which is great news, and they also highlight any areas that might need a little bit of improvement. It's all about measuring to manage, and hopefully, make things even better. Now, one very important KPI that airlines track carefully is called MTBUR. Whoa, those are some big words. It stands for mean time between unscheduled removal. That sounds kind of complicated, but really it just means on average, how long does a specific part work perfectly on the airplane before it breaks or fails unexpectedly, and then needs to be taken off the plane before its planned replacement time? A longer MTBUR is always much better. It's what everyone wants to see. It means the parts are very reliable and are not causing lots of surprise problems. And you guessed it, that means fewer delays and smoother operations for the airline. Another key KPI is MTTR, which stands for mean time to repair. This important measurement tracks on average how long it takes for the skilled mechanics to fix a broken part once it's been removed from the airplane and sent to the workshop. A shorter MTTR is absolutely awesome. Everyone loves a quick repair time. It means the repair teams are super fast, efficient, and well organized. Then there's something called AOG hours. AOG means aircraft on ground. Not good. This KPI tracks exactly how long an airplane is stuck on the tarmac and can't fly because it's waiting for a critical spare part or a necessary repair. Fewer AOG hours are always the main goal for any airline, for sure. And let's not forget about OTIF, on time in full. This is crucial too. This KPI checks if the correct spare parts are arriving at the right maintenance station, at exactly the right time they are needed and in the correct quantity ordered. High OTIF scores, kind of like getting an A+ on a test, mean the supply chain is working like a dream. It means parts are flowing smoothly from the warehouse to the airplane. All these different KPIs working together help airlines see very clearly if they are succeeding in keeping their airplanes safe, saving precious money, and making absolutely sure that their flights are leaving on time for passengers. It's all about the numbers telling a very important story about performance. So, when an airline needs a spare part for one of its airplanes, what does it do? Usually they buy the part directly from the big company that made the airplane itself. Companies like Boeing or Airbus or Embraer, for example. Or they might buy it from the company that made the original part in the first place, like an engine maker, or a company that makes airplane radios or landing gear. These parts are called OEM parts. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer Parts. They are always top quality, designed specifically for that airplane. But because they are from the original maker, they can also be quite expensive. But hold on, science explorers, there's often another option available. Sometimes other specialized companies are officially approved by aviation authorities to manufacture spare parts that are just as good and just as safe as those original OEM parts. These alternative parts are called PMA parts. PMA is short for Parts Manufacturer Approval. It's kind of like an official stamp of quality. Think of it like this. When you go to the supermarket, you can buy a famous brand of cereal. Or you might see a store brand cereal right next to it. The store brand cereal often tastes just like the famous brand and works just as well for breakfast, but it usually costs a little bit less money. PMA parts can be similar. PMA parts can actually save airlines a whole lot of money. That's a big reason to use them. Because there's more competition in the market when PMA parts are available, the prices for those parts can often be lower than the OEM equivalent. This really helps airlines to keep their overall maintenance costs down. And when airlines save money on maintenance, guess what? That can sometimes mean cheaper ticket prices for all of us who love to fly. But remember, safety is always number one in aviation. No compromises. So these PMA parts have to meet incredibly strict safety and quality rules, just exactly like the OEM parts do. They are very carefully tested and officially approved. However, even though PMA parts can be great for saving money, there can be some things that airlines need to think about very carefully. Sometimes, using too many PMA parts on a very complex component, like inside a giant jet engine, might possibly affect the warranty that the original engine maker provided for that whole engine. That's a risk. Or, the company that made the airplane, the OEM, might not offer as much technical support or help if there's a problem with a PMA part installed, so airlines have to be really smart and do their homework. They need to weigh the potential cost savings against any possible risks or downsides. It's a very careful balancing act to make the best decision for safety and cost. Section 7. Getting better bit by bit Kaizen in the repair shop. Imagine a super busy workshop full of tools and machines. This is a repair shop for airplane parts. It's a bustling place with lots of activity all the time. Skilled mechanics and technicians are working really hard with great concentration. They are fixing all sorts of complicated things that come off the airplanes, things like cockpit radios, important hydraulic pumps, and even those fancy coffee makers from the cabin. How can these dedicated teams do their important job even better, even faster, and most importantly, without making any mistakes at all? It's a constant goal. Well, there's a really cool and clever idea that originally came from Japan that helps a lot. It's called Kaizen. Say it with me, Kaizen. It means continuous improvement. Kaizen is a Japanese word that means good change or continuous improvement. It's not about making one single, giant, dramatic change all at once. No, Kaizen is all about making lots and lots of small, smart, simple changes all the time, every single day. It's a way of thinking and working. Everyone on the team, from the newest apprentice mechanic learning the ropes to the most experienced, wise old engineer, is encouraged to look for ways to make things just a little bit better, a tiny bit more efficient, every single day. It's kind of like tidying your room just a little bit each day. If you do that, it never gets super messy and out of control, right? Here's a really practical example of Kaizen in action in an airplane repair shop. Let's say the mechanics who specialize in fixing a certain type of hydraulic valve always have to walk all the way to the other side of the big workshop just to get one particular special tool they need for that specific job. That walking back and forth takes up valuable time, maybe a few minutes each time. Using the Kaizen philosophy, someone on the team might make a suggestion. They might say, "Hey team, why don't we get an extra set of those special tools and keep them right here at this workbench where we always fix these valves?" Boom. That's a small, simple change, but it saves a few precious minutes every single time a valve is fixed. Over many weeks and months, all these little clever Kaizen changes add up. They combine to make really big and noticeable improvements in the workshop. Repairs get done faster, which is great for getting planes back in service. There are fewer mistakes made because processes are smoother and clearer. The workshop itself becomes more organized, cleaner, and a much happier place to work. Kaizen helps the repair team save valuable time, which in turn saves the airline money. And crucially, it helps get those expertly fixed parts back to the waiting airplanes much quicker. It's a fantastic example of teamwork making everything awesome, bit by bit. Small steps can lead to giant leaps in efficiency and quality. Section 8. Seeing is believing colors and cards in the parts store. Remember that absolutely giant library but for airplane parts that we talked about earlier? That amazing place is the airline's parts stores or their central warehouse. It can have thousands, sometimes even millions of different types of parts stored inside. Finding the exact right part quickly and without any mistakes is super important. This is especially true if an airplane is waiting on the ground for that specific part to fly. So how do the busy store teams stay so well organized and work super fast? They use a really smart system, a set of techniques called visual management. It's all about making information easy to see and understand just by looking. Visual management means using bright colors, clear signs, and simple visual signals that everyone in the stores can see and understand easily and instantly. It's a bit like traffic lights on the street. Red means stop, yellow means caution, green means go. Easy. Everyone understands it without needing a long instruction manual. In an airline parts store, they might use different color-coded zones marked on the floor. Maybe bright green zones are for parts that are inspected perfect and ready to go to the airplane. Perhaps yellow zones are for parts that have just arrived and are waiting for an inspection. And red zones could be for parts that are identified as broken or unserviceable and need repair or disposal. They also often use special simple cards, sometimes called Kanban cards. Kanban is another really clever idea that also originally came from Japan. Wow, so many good ideas. Imagine a particular type of part is stored in a bin on a shelf, and that bin has a card with it. This card has information about the part, like its part number and how many should be in the bin. When a mechanic comes and takes the very last part from that bin to use on an airplane, they also take that Kanban card. This card then goes to the person in charge of ordering new parts. Just seeing that card immediately tells them, hey, we need to order more of this part right now. It's a very simple visual signal that a part needs to be restocked. These amazing visual systems like the colored floor zones and these Kanban cards help everyone in the parts store see exactly what's happening with the inventory at a single glance. It greatly reduces the chance of mistakes like picking the wrong part number by accident. It helps keep very accurate track of how many of each part are currently in stock, and it makes the whole process of finding, picking, and delivering parts much smoother and faster, so the correct part gets to the waiting airplane much more quickly. This efficiency helps flights stay on time and avoid frustrating delays for passengers. It's like having a super organized toy chest where you can find any toy in seconds. Visual management makes the whole system work better, just by making things clear to see. Section 9. Old parts, new tricks. What happens when parts get old? Airplanes are built to last. They can fly safely for many, many years. It's quite incredible. Some airplanes fly for 20 years or 30 years, or sometimes even longer than that. That's amazing engineering and a testament to how well they are maintained. But what about all the thousands of different parts inside these long-serving airplanes? Over a long period of time, some of these parts can become obsolete. Obsolete is a word that means they are no longer being made or sold by the original company. Or maybe there are newer, much better, more advanced versions of those parts now available. This situation with obsolete parts can sometimes be a real challenge for airlines. Imagine trying to find a spare part for a really, really old video game console from your childhood. It can be very tricky, and sometimes almost impossible to find that specific old part. It's quite similar for some old airplane parts that are no longer in production. If a critical part on an older airplane is obsolete and then it breaks or wears out, the airline might not be able to just go and buy a brand new one easily from a supplier. This could mean that an airplane is stuck on the ground, unable to fly for a very long time. That's definitely not good for the airline's business, and it's not good for passengers who might be waiting to fly on that particular airplane. So, what can be done? Airlines have to be very clever and have smart strategies to deal with this. One common way they handle this is to make a last-time buy of these older parts. When they get information from a supplier that a certain part is going to become obsolete soon, they try to estimate how many of those parts they might need for the rest of that airplane's life. Then they try to buy a big stock of those parts to keep them for future use. Another way is to look for special companies that actually specialize in finding or sometimes even carefully manufacturing these hard-to-get old parts under license. These companies are like detectives for rare airplane components. Sometimes highly skilled engineers can even find clever ways to safely repair an old obsolete part instead of having to replace it with a new one, extending its life. Or in some situations they might be able to use a newer, different part if it's been thoroughly tested, approved by the aviation authorities, and proven to be safe. Careful, long-range planning and looking far ahead into the future are absolutely key here. It's all about making sure these older, well-loved, and still very useful airplanes can keep flying safely and reliably until it's finally time for them to retire from service. It's like being a super smart parts detective, always finding a solution. This ensures that even vintage aircraft can be maintained to the highest safety standards. Section 10. Awesome management equals safe flights and happy flyers. Wow, we've certainly learned so much today, Science Explorers. We've journeyed through the fascinating world of how airlines look after all those thousands and thousands of crucial spare parts for their airplanes. From understanding the big, expensive buys called Capex for items like engines, to keeping track of all the everyday running costs, which are called Opex. From learning about the magic of warranties that can save lots of money on surprise repairs, to discovering the clever ways airlines manage the super expensive costs of jet engines. It's a really big, complex, and incredibly important job, isn't it amazing? So much goes on behind the scenes to keep us flying. We also saw how airlines use those special measurements, key performance indicators, or KPIs. Remember those important codes like MTBUR, MTTR, and OTIF? They use these KPIs to check if they are doing a truly great job in maintenance. Airlines need to know if their parts are reliable and if they are arriving on time. We also learned about different types of parts like those PMA parts we discussed. These PMA parts can help airlines save money on maintenance while still being super safe and meeting all the strict quality standards. It's all about making really smart choices every single day to be efficient. And don't forget those super cool and effective ideas that originally came from Japan. There was Kaizen, the idea of making lots of small, continuous changes that add up to big improvements in the repair shop, making work faster and better. And then there was visual management, using bright colors and special cards to keep that huge parts store totally organized and running at top speed. Even dealing with those tricky old, obsolete parts needs very careful planning and strategy. Every single step in this whole engineering supply chain is so important to keep everything running smoothly, just like a well-oiled machine itself. So why does all this incredibly careful and detailed management matter so very much? Well, when you think about it, it all comes down to two super important things. The first one is safety. Always safety first in the air. And the second one is keeping all the flights running on time for everyone. Good, smart spare parts management means that airplanes are always in tip-top, perfect condition. This vigilance is what keeps everyone, passengers and crew, safe up there in the sky. And when all the needed parts are ready and repairs are done quickly and efficiently, flights can leave on schedule without those annoying delays. That means happy passengers, successful airlines, and amazing safe journeys for everyone. Science, engineering, and good planning truly make flying awesome. Keep exploring.